I'm that boy who is very passionate, so passionate about winning souls, so passionate about seeing true discipleship take place, so passionate about seeing people come to Jesus' saving knowledge and have to live in the truth. And so when I see the people we struggle to reach out with the gospel that eventually come to Jesus, I see people manipulate them. I feel really pained. I feel really uncomfortable, and it hurts. It hurts knowing the sacrifices that people go through in order to be able to win the loss, and then seeing how others would treat all of these efforts with so much trivialities and so much disdain, because to them the gospel rises and falls on money. It is really, really hurting. You know, we must come to a point in this our Christendom where we get to understand that people who comes to ministry should not come to ministry because they have not gotten employment somewhere. People should not join ministry because they have gone everywhere in search of jobs and they can't find. People should not join ministry because they are probably intellectually bankrupt. People should not join ministry because that is the only option of the table. Once people come to ministry because that's the only option on the table, what they will be struggling to do on daily basis is to make it, to be as successful as possible. And what most often we term success in ministry is about gathering as many people as possible. And it doesn't just end at gathering many people as possible. The essence of gathering many people as possible for people who want to supposedly get this kind of ministry success is for the money, because it is clear the belief is that the more people they gather, the more money they make. Yeah, the more people they gather, the more money they make. And once we reduce ministry to this kind of money, we reduce money ministry to mammon, it becomes a very, very bad thing. Bad thing not just for the image of God, bad thing also for the image of the gospel, and bad thing for how people perceive the gospel. The reason why it is difficult to see very successful people within the church realm is because the church, to some extent, has actually failed in helping people understand that the reason for coming to church is not to get an edge over those who are not church people in the economic world, in the political world, in the financial world, in the academic world. We've made it look like the only way for you to be able to do better in the secular is by having God on your side. And once coming to God is about what God can give than God Himself, the motive is already wrong. And the likelihood is that we are probably not Christians in the first place. Christianity is not predicated upon what we can get from God, it is predicated on love, and love is about relationship. And so, if we come into Jesus, we should come to Jesus on the basis that we want to establish a relationship with God, a relationship that will be maintained by that same love. I hope you already know that love is motive, motive is love. When we talk love, we simply talking motive. What is it that motivates you to do what you're doing? If you're coming to Jesus is motivated by love, we are in effect simply saying that the motive of coming to Jesus is love. And so until we make people understand that our coming to Jesus is to enjoy the love of God, to be at rest with our Creator, we will keep living a life of struggling uh, to get to a God because of what that God can give and not because of the God Himself. You and I already know that majority of African Christians who migrate to the West, to Europe, to Asian countries, where life is a little better, where social amenities are easy to come by, are not going to church. The only reason why they went to church in Africa was because they were made to believe that by going to church in Africa, you can pray and be able to subdue your circumstances, pray and be able to subdue your enemies, pray, be able to subdue the things or the challenges that you have around you. And so they went to church as a conquest means, not because they cared about the God of the church. Please, if you're just joining this video, do me a favor, share it with someone, invite someone to join. Now, if our Christianity varies with where we are based, it means that it was not Christianity in the first place. If you are a Christian in Africa, immediately you travel to Europe or to maybe another African country that is well to do, and you suddenly lose hope in God, lose hope in anything that concerns church. It means that you were never going to church for God. You went to church for what you can get from God, and that is exactly what we have. You know, in Africa, we pray for journey mercies. That you leave your house and you're traveling to the next city, you're praying that you should be able to arrive well. Do you know why we do those prayers? It's not because we really need God to protect us on these journeys. It is because we know that the routes are terrible and we know that our drivers are reckless. So, excuse me, we do not have a choice but to call on God to intervene. But if you not get to the west, the routes are good, man. People don't drive recklessly like that except someone who is under the influence of drug or alcohol. You will not need such prayers. It is in Africa that we pray to have constant electricity. Maybe you are having an online Zoom meeting. Deep in your heart, you're praying, oh God, just help that this power supply company does not cut off this electricity, because you will be in a difficult situation. You won't be able to follow the meeting again. We make such prayers because power supply in Africa is a problem. In fact, I've had several occasions where I'm having a meeting online and I am praying. I teach every day online, and before I get into my class, I always pray for the stable internet connection. Are we even supposed to be praying for stable internet connection? The only reason why we do so is because in Africa, we don't have good internet connection. You think if I were in America, I would have to pray for stable internet connection? Not at all. I'll have to pray that, oh God, make sure that the power supply company doesn't cut the power. I can't make such prayer because such a thing is not going to happen. So you see, a lot of us go to church not because we love the God of the church, but because we love what the God of the church can give. And as long as we've been given promises that this God of the church will keep giving us these things that we are going to church for, man, we'll keep going. And the day we realize that there is a place that we can get these things better than what the church can offer, we withdraw. I don't know whether you get what I'm trying to say. See, sometimes I look at our African Christianity, I just laugh. Our African Christianity is more of, how do I put it? Our African Christianity is I'm looking for that word. Our African Christianity is more of a solution ground kind of an organization. In fact, to me, our African Christianity is run like as an NGO, not in the aspect of distributing material stuff, but rather in the aspect of having to give people hope. In fact, our African Christianity and African gospel is more of motivational speaking than it is the gospel itself. Because understanding from where we are coming, I intentionally use this background because of the kind of message I'm passing across. Now look at what I'm holding my microphone on. This is intentional. Now look at my background. Look at what I'm holding in my hand. We come from a background that in itself is already disadvantaged. That is it. We come from a background that in itself is already disadvantaged. So our African Christianity is an attempt to have an advantage over our disadvantaged environment, over our disadvantaged background. So we don't come to church because of God, we come to church because of what God can give. And so when we're coming to church, our expectations are, oh God, that you meet this need. Oh God, that you come through for me in this way. Oh God, that you can be able to overcome this situation in my life. That I'll be able to at least sail through this issue. Some people even come to church and pray to God to be able to intervene so that they can raise money to pay their rent. Why is this so? Because unemployment is prevalent. No jobs. Are we saying praying for all of these things are wrong? No. But we are saying that it is not in the place of God to even give us all of these things. It is the responsibility of our government. And because our government have failed even themselves and failed us, it is obvious that the things they were supposed to deliver to us, we are asking God to give us. See, we 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 are Africans. Yeah, we are truly Africans. We are truly Africans, and we are truly living our lives as Africans. Even our Christianity truly reflects Africa. the same reasons for which the same reasons for which we go to the shrines, the same reason for which we visit native doctors, the same reasons for which we visit herbalists are the reasons for which we come to church. If you ask an average African Christian today why he or she comes to church, they will just tell you, we're coming to church to pray. And if you ask them what their prayer is about what God will give them. And if you look at the prayers of the apostles, you'll be shocked that 99.9% of their prayers were not about what God would give them. Were about the winning of souls. Guys, don't mind me. I'm standing outside, so mosquito is having a field day. So 99% of African Christians go to church not because they care about the church, not because they care about anyone or anything. It's just that God should come through for them. And it's understandable. So understandable. That is why our African prophets have understood this very well. So, see, one of the things a lot of people have not realized is that most African false pastors and prophets are very intelligent people. They know exactly what our predicament is. They know exactly why we go to church. And so they capitalize upon these reasons to be able to make us dry. Because that is the only way they are also going to make their own living. After all, there are no jobs for them also. There are no jobs for them, and because they themselves do not have jobs, obviously they will need to create jobs, and using the pulpit as a platform is always the best place to do that. Very, very best place to do that. And then we have also allowed our gullibility to be a market where these people feast on. A market where these people do buying and selling. A market where these people take advantage of and they are able to commercialize all manner of stuff. The reason why we are all crying today that, oh, how can they be selling soup in church? It's because when they began with water, we did not complain. There are very subtle things that crept into the church and they look very innocent until they began changing into different forms and our eyes are gradually opening and it is seemingly too late. Why are you complaining about soap today when you didn't complain about water yesterday? When our most revered men of God asked their members to come to church with combs and comb away their suffering, we didn't see anything wrong with that. So why are we now seeing something wrong with people selling soap? When they were selling cutlasses in church where people come and cut off their enemies, nobody complained. So why are we complaining about soap today? When when they started using handkerchief and calling them mantles and rubbing them on people and selling them to people, nobody complained. So why are we complaining today? When they brought handkerchiefs and claimed that they carry some level of power and you can use it for this and that, all of us embrace it with satisfaction and happiness. Why are we complaining? When they brought onion, brought pepper, brought what is this popular fruit that is commonly used? Brought apple for the fruit of the womb. All of us gladly bought it and we were happy celebrating. Let me tell us something. The little things we are allowed to creep in the church from the beginning has degenerated to what we have today. And no amount of complaining is going to stop it. If we had not stopped water then, if we had not stopped combs then, if we had not stopped handkerchiefs then, if we had not stopped mantles then, we are not going to stop savon today. We are not going to stop anointed soup today. We are not going to stop the drinking of fuel in the church today. People will keep drinking and dying. And no matter how much sensitization is done, people will still go and drink and die. People will still drink the toll and die. People will still drink detergent and die. That is how bad our Christianity has become. Because the things we are apparently complaining about today are the things that started yesterday. So subtle, looking very innocent, and we all embrace them. Today, see where we find ourselves. Now, see where we find ourselves. When I look at the fight between VDM and Papa J, I just laugh. Because that it is another avenue for social media drama. Because that is not going to end anywhere. And at the end of the day, nothing is going to change. Literally, nothing is going to change. Because it's clear that these people can't keep selling what they are selling if they never had the market. The market is really available. And that is why even if they sell it for millions, we will still buy. I remember a scenario where somebody was selling half 5 liters of pure water for 300,000 in this country. Government officials bought it. Nobody complained. Nobody complained. Should we talk about the fact that people have now dug swimming pools around the church premises and you have to come pay money and swim in them? Nobody is complaining. When it started, we were saying they are trying to replicate biblical events. Guy, so if I look at African Christianity, I laugh so hard. So hard. So hard. Because we are not ready for change. We are not ready for change. When somebody rises up and start opening our eyes to the reality of what is on ground, the next thing is you guys start telling him he's fighting the church. He's an evil man. The devil is using him. Up and down. And then the same people who have been adulterating the gospel, the same people who have been manipulating people over the years and have used the money to acquire all kinds of material resources, nobody is raising a finger against him. See, we have a long way to go in this African Christianity. We have a long way to go. And until we rise up, our children are going to inherit a Christianity of men of God and not a Christianity of the God of men. That is the truth. Because today, a man will defend a man of God with all of his zeal. But if Jesus is ridiculed, such people will go mute. Why? Because people's allegiance are not to God. Because they were never there for God. People's allegiance are to the men that brought them. They were there for the men. And that is why they will defend the men with the last drop of their blood. Over a few years, I've seen those who wanted to stand for the truth. And I admire their zeal. I admire their passion. And I thought that these were people who finally, whose eyes were open, but where hunger struck. The same people who were claiming to stand for the truth went back to preaching the same lies that the same people they were standing against were preaching. Why? Because people's God are their stomach. They don't care about the Almighty. They care about what satisfies their stomach. And we will keep going the way we are going if we do not retrace our steps. If we keep defending men at the expense of the truth of the gospel, we will keep going the way we are going. And I tell you, a time is coming when nations will decide whether or not Bible should be allowed. Even in African countries, so it's a matter of time. You see, this deterioration is a matter of time. I'm not a prophet of doom, but what I'm telling you is the honest truth. It is a matter of time. It is a matter of time. Government will start regulating churches. It is a matter of time. Government will start regulating even the use of religious books. It is a matter of time because we've used these books to cause so much havoc. So much havoc. Should we talk about the scenario that happened in Kenya? A man bundled a whole congregation into a bush where they went to fast for 40 days and 40 nights. And unfortunately, while these people were fasting and dying one after the other, the guy was eating. Now, all of them are dead, but the guy is in prison. He's still alive. Can't we see how stupid we are getting by the day? Can't we see? When are we going to put a stop to all of this nonsense? When? How long are we going to keep allowing ourselves to be carried away? How long? How long are we going to keep giving up to all of these manipulations because of allegiance to men? How long? See, the greatest freedom that a human will have on earth is freedom from religious bondage. Once you find yourself being freed from religious bondage, be it African traditional religion, be it the Christian religion, be it whatever form of religion, if you find yourself freed from religion, you should be a happy person. When you eventually find yourself free from religious bondage, then you have truly found freedom. And the question I've often asked is, are we ready to be free? Yeah. Are we ready to be free? Are we ready to be free? Or we want to keep enjoying what is happening? We want to keep celebrating the manipulation. And the truth is that people never see anything wrong with falsehood as long as they are benefiting from it, or as long as it doesn't happen to any member of their families. Nobody. Nobody. As long as it's still in a neighbor's house, everyone else is happy about it. But once it touches them, that's when they will know the pain. That's when they will know the frustration. That's when they will know what it means to be a victim of all of this. And I ask you tonight, will you stand against religious manipulation, or you will keep enjoying it because you are a beneficiary of the produce or the outputs? The choice is yours to make. My job is to keep calling your attention to what's on ground. My job is to keep calling you to the reality on ground. My job is to keep reminding you that we have a legacy to uphold. Sometimes I just wonder, if the apostles are treated this gospel the way we are treating it, what would we have today? There wouldn't have been any gospel for us today. If they would have materialized it like we are doing, merchandised it like we are doing, if they would have valued material stuff like we are doing at the expense of the gospel, the honest truth is that we would have not had any gospel today. The only reason why we can stand here and talk about the gospel is because there are people who sacrifice their lives for it. But today, we are willing to sell it for money. We're willing to give it out for anything that sells. And the question is, for how long? For how long? If you can't even do it for yourself, why don't you do it for your kids? Why don't you do it for posterity? Why can't you stand against falsehood for posterity? And there are lots of you who want to stand against falsehood, but once the falsehood involves somebody you adore, you respect and cherish, everything else begins to fall like a pack of cards, because your allegiance is not to God, it's not to Christ, it's not to his gospel, it is to a man. And once your allegiance is to a man, you cannot stand the test of time. And worst of all is if you are on that man's payroll. That's the worst part of it. If you're on a man's payroll, anything goes. We have people who challenge this position, doctrinal position today that is wrong, and tomorrow they uphold the same because the man they revered is upholding it. How long? Dear Africans, how long? How long are we going to keep pretending as if this is not affecting us? Whether or not we like it. The the influx of another gospel is destroying our continent. Yes, it is true that it is not the church that makes the laws. It is true that it is not the church that is the leadership of the nations. But we cannot deny the impact of all of these merchandise, the impact of all of these falsehood in our continent. The negative impact is huge. And if we are truly honest, we must acknowledge it and do what is right. We must acknowledge it and do what is right. And doing what is right simply means standing up for the truth. Yeah. Standing up for the truth. How many of us are willing to stand for the truth? How many of us are willing to do what is right? How many of us are willing to still defend the truth of the gospel, even in the midst of falsehood, in the midst of manipulation? How many of us can still value the position of God, even when the people we respect and adore are taking the contrary? How many of us? Until we come to a point where there is no bias, a point where truth is truth, irrespective of who upholds it, we are yet to begin our journey of freedom. And subsequently, our children are likely to live in that same kind of a scenario. When you refuse to denounce evil, when you become silent in the face of injustice, it's clear you are an accomplice. When you refuse to call out evil, when you refuse to call out injustice, it is clear you are an accomplice. See this life? You talk, you die. You do not talk, you still die. The choice is yours. None of us are going to live forever here. But the question is, what will you be remembered for? Being a problem solver or being part of the problem? God avails us that opportunity to either become part of the problem or to be a solution to the problem. Which one do you choose? You choose to become part of the problem because of those who are involved, because of the people that are involved, the people you cherish, the people you love, the people you are loyal to. Irrespective of the number of people that get hurt under all of these systems, under all of these manipulators, we still cling on to them. How do we even feel? How do you even sleep at night when you do such things? And don't tell me you don't have a voice, because social media has given every one of us a voice. You do not have to be insultive. You do not have to humiliate anybody. You do not have to be arrogant. You just have to present your position respectfully. And when many of us start presenting our positions respectfully, according to what scripture is saying, in our various little corners, we'll be making great impacts. And before you know it, an ocean is formed. The choice is yours, is mine. Either to fold our arms and watch the stethoscope and act as if we are not seeing and act as if nothing is going on, or we actively get involved and start playing our parts to salvage this situation. Somebody say, no, just begin to preach the truth. Falsehood will eventually vanish. There's no reason calling out falsehood. That's another style of being an accomplice. In the days of old, the apostle called out people who were fraudulent, called out people who merchandised the gospel in acts publicly for everyone to detest them, from everyone to distance themselves away from them. Paul even said he has handed some people to the devil. Because they forsook the gospel, they forsook him, they forsook the things of God for material issues. But today, if you ask any man, what is success in ministry, riding a big car, or having a fleet of car, riding a private jet, having a large congregation, having associate under you, guys, I look at us and laugh so hard. So hard. And my prayer for you is that God should not give you an awakening mind when you're already old and you can't do anything about it. That's my prayer for you. God should not give you an awakening mind when you're already old and you can't do anything about it. Take advantage of all that is happening now. Use the platform that you have. At least there are people who listen to you. Redirect people to the truth. If you do not know the truth yourself, find it out. Find it out. And like the wise man said, sell it not. Thank you so much, guys. If you have to watch this video, please do me a favor, share it with someone. Let it encourage someone. Let it be a blessing to someone. Let others know about me. If you're not following me, you can follow me. And I want to believe that this video is going to challenge you. You're going to create some level of consciousness and will enable you to think again when it comes to dealing with the things that are happening within the church world. Nobody likes to see the things that are going on go on. But we can bring a change. Change begins with you, begins with me.